topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Powerful Business Strategies, where you will find out that everything you have ever learned about growing your business is wrong. Finally, a show where you'll learn the right way to grow your business by learning business and financial strategies that your competition isn't doing. And now, here is your host, President of Next Step CFO, Michael Barbarita. And joining Michael for today's show as an executive moderator is Chuki Obiyo.
Yes, this is Chuki, and I believe that gratitude is undefeated and growth is about the next step. It is an honor for me to moderate today's discussion with my good friend, Michael. Michael, how are you?
Fantastic, Chuki. Thank you. And my name is Michael Barbarita, President of Next Step CFO. And Next Step CFO is a fractional CFO and strategic implementation firm. Business owners hire us to double and triple their profit using business and financial strategies that their competition isn't doing. And our vision is to ensure that overwhelmed business owners achieve consistent profits that leads to time freedom to build a legacy and the life that they desire. Our mission is dedicated to guiding small business owners to leveraging their time, exploding their profits, and building a meaningful legacy. And this show, Powerful Business Strategies, and our book of the same name, is a step toward accomplishing that vision and mission. So with that, I'd like to hand it back to my co-author and moderator for the show, Chuki Obiyo.
Michael, I am particularly inspired by today's episode, the talent revolution, how to become the employer of choice in your industry. So before we jump in, folks, Michael and I are both affiliated with a number of different organizations, and I currently serve as the managing director of business development for Better Price, a global business-focused law firm. In addition to that, it's truly an honor to collaborate with Michael and moderate these great business roundtables where we document insights as part of our book called Powerful Business Strategies. But please note that the views expressed on this show are personal views based on those successful roundtable experiences and beyond. And my mission as a fearless moderator is to ask the right questions to help you, the listener, learn the best business strategies that the competition isn't doing. Michael, back over to you.
Thank you, Chuki. So before we dive into today's critical topic, I do want to share something. You know, as business owners, we often focus intensely on finding customers, managing operations, and driving profits. But there's a fundamental truth that many of us learn the hard way, and our business will never outgrow the quality of our team. The people we bring on board, the culture we create, and how we develop talent ultimately determines whether our vision becomes reality or remains forever out of reach. And the most successful businesses that I've worked with don't just have great products or clever marketing. They've created workplaces where exceptional people want to be. Today, we're going to show you how to do exactly that, how to become the destination workplace in your industry, attracting people who will help you take your business to heights you haven't even imagined yet. Because when you get the people part right, everything else becomes infinitely easier. So today, we're tackling one of the most persistent challenges facing businesses of all sizes: how to attract and retain top talent in an increasingly competitive labor market. And I want to start by challenging a common misconception that that costs most business owners millions in wasted recruiting expenses and lost productivity. That misconception is that talent shortages are primarily about money. That if you just pay more than your competitors, you'll win the talent war. That reality is far more complex and provides tremendous opportunity for businesses willing to think differently. And I've worked with companies across dozens of industries, and I see and consistently see that employees make decisions based on much more than just compensation. And yes, pay needs to be fair and competitive. That's for sure. But beyond a certain threshold, other factors become far more important in attracting and keeping good people. So think about it, your own experience. Would you take a job that paid 10% more, but required working for a toxic boss? Or would you stay at a company that offered good benefits, but no flexibility or growth opportunities? See, most people wouldn't, and the data confirms this. Studies consistently show that after basic financial needs are met, factors like purpose, growth opportunities, work environment, and leadership quality matter more than additional compensation. This is actually good news for small to medium-sized businesses competing against larger companies with those big budgets. You can create advantages in these other critical areas that make you the employer of choice in your industry, even if you can't match the highest salaries.
You know what, Michael, that's an interesting perspective, but with unemployment rates relatively low and skilled workers in high demand, wouldn't you say that most businesses are forced to compete primarily on wages to attract talent?
Well, that's a great question, Chuki, but the current labor market is indeed challenging. I heard a recent statistic in the construction industry that every month, 5 people retire and only 2 people come into the labor market. So that's a depleting statistic for sure. And that's what business owners are up against in a lot of industries, not just the construction industry. But competing primarily on wages is actually a losing strategy for most businesses, especially smaller ones that can't win a bidding war against the larger competitors. And here's the reason.
That's a good point.
When you attract people primarily through high compensation, you create 3 significant problems. First, you essentially attract mercenaries. These are people who will leave the moment someone offers them slightly more money. Second, you create unsustainable compensation structures that hurt profitability. And third, you miss out on attracting people who are looking for more than just a paycheck. And by the way, these end up being the most dedicated, creative, and productive employees. Instead, smart businesses are implementing what I call the employer of choice framework. And this approach recognizes that employees, like customers, have specific problems they're trying to solve and outcomes they're seeking. When you understand these deeply, these issues deeply, and position your business as the solution, you can attract better talent even without paying those premium wages. So let me share a quick example. So a manufacturing company was struggling to find skilled technicians, and they were competing against larger manufacturers offering higher wages and losing most candidates as a result. And when they analyzed the situation, they discovered that many experienced technicians in their industry were actually frustrated by rigid shift schedules that interfered with family life and personal interests. So this company introduced a flexible scheduling system that allowed technicians to create their own schedules within certain parameters. And they didn't increase their wage rates, but they promoted this flexibility very heavily in their recruiting messaging. And within 3 months, their applications rates tripled, and they were able to fully staff their operation with qualified technicians, many of whom came from those higher paying competitors. And this example illustrates the power of understanding what potential employees really want beyond just compensation. And the company identified a significant problem that these technicians had with traditional employers, and they positioned themselves as the solution to that problem. And our employer of choice framework helps businesses replicate this success through a systematic approach with 3 key components. First, employee problem and solution identification. Deeply understanding the specific problems and frustrations that your ideal employees face with typical employers in your industry and developing innovative solutions to these problems. Second, employment value proposition development, creating and articulating a compelling statement that clearly communicates how working for your company solves these problems and delivers unique benefits that employees can't find elsewhere. And third, attraction and retention systems, implementing specific processes to attract ideal candidates, efficiently convert them to employees, and keep them engaged for the long term. So I introduced our employer of choice framework and the importance of understanding what employees truly value beyond just compensation. So let's dive into the first component of the framework, which is employee problem solution identification. This is about deeply understanding the specific problems and frustrations that your ideal employees face with typical employers in your industry and developing innovative solutions to these problems. Now, most business owners approach hiring with a self-centered perspective. Here's what we need from employees. Now, the employer of choice framework flips that around to an employee-centered perspective. So here's what employees need from us is the shift in thinking. And this shift opens up tremendous opportunities to differentiate your company in the talent marketplace. So how do you identify these employee problems and frustrations? Well, there are 4 primary research methods that I recommend. First, conduct what I call stay interviews with your best current employees. So unlike exit interviews that happen too late to retain talent, stay interviews focus on understanding what keeps your top performers engaged and what might cause them to leave. So you would ask questions like, what do you enjoy most about working here? What frustrates you about your job or our company? What would make your work experience better? Have you ever considered leaving? And if so, what prompted that? And what would another company have to offer to entice you away? And these frank conversations often reveal very surprising insights about what your employees truly value and what problems they're experiencing that you might not be aware of. Second, analyze data from former employees, whether it's reviewing exit interviews, resignation letters, departure patterns to identify recurring themes. Why did people leave? Was it always for more money, or were there other factors like a lack of flexibility or a lack of growth opportunities or management issues? Third, research your industry's specific pain points. Different industries and roles have very unique frustrations. For example, retail employees often struggle with unpredictable scheduling. IT professionals frequently cite lack of development opportunities, and healthcare workers report burnout from administrative burdens. So understanding the common pain points in your industry provides a starting point for differentiation. Fourth, monitor online employer reviews on platforms like Glassdoor and Indeed. Look at reviews of both your company and your competitors. What patterns do you see that in any negative reviews? What do employees consistently praise or criticize? These public forums often contain candid feedback that wouldn't be shared directly. So let me share a real example of how powerful this research can be. So a business in the accounting industry was struggling to attract and retain skilled professionals. And that's another industry where the retirement rate is a lot faster than the incoming rate. And through stay interviews and industry research, this accounting firm discovered 3 primary frustrations among accountants. Number 1 was the traditional busy season created extreme work-life imbalance for several months each year. Second, most firms provided limited client interaction for junior staff, slowing professional development. And remote work flexibility was inconsistent or non-existent at many firms. Armed with this knowledge, they completely reimagined their employment model to address these specific pain points. And they implemented year-round tax planning to flatten workloads. They created client exposure opportunities for all staff levels. and adopted a remote-first approach with optional office space. So these changes, they didn't require paying higher salaries. In fact, they were able to offer slightly below market compensation while still becoming a preferred employer in the region. And within a year, they reduced turnover by 62% and built a waiting list of qualified candidates referred by existing employees.
Michael, it's always interesting to gauge the amount of engagement that we have. So we've got a good number of listeners today. We do have one question from a listener, and I'll go ahead and sort of ask that question. Michael, if you've got a minute. So look, I imagine, here's a question. I imagine many business owners might worry about the cost of implementing these kinds of solutions. Michael, how do you ensure that becoming an employer of choice remains financially viable?
Well, that's a critical concern about cost. The goal isn't to create employee benefits that bankrupt the business. It's to design an employment experience that attracts and retains talent while remaining financially sustainable. And there are three key approaches to achieving that balance. First, you focus on value creation, not just cost. When evaluating potential solutions, consider both the cost and the financial benefits, because you've got to consider that reduced turnover alone can save substantial money. The fully loaded cost of replacing an employee typically ranges between 50% and 200% of their annual salary after you account for recruiting, training, lost productivity, and customer impact. For example, the company in the IT services industry implemented a 4-day work week for their technical staff. And while this represented a theoretical 20% reduction in available billable hours, the reality was far different. Turnover decreased from 28% to 9%. That was on an annual basis, saving tremendous replacement costs. And then productivity during the 4 working days increased. And their improved reputation as an employer led to higher quality applicants, further enhancing productivity and client satisfaction. Second, design solutions around trade-offs rather than just pure addition. So instead of simply adding benefits on top of current operations, look for creative restructuring that delivers value to employees without significantly increasing the costs. So, for example, a healthcare provider found that their clinical staff strongly valued schedule predictability. So rather than hiring additional staff, which would have been prohibitively expensive, they redesigned their scheduling system. So they offered slightly lower hourly rates for shifts scheduled 2 months in advance with premiums for last-minute coverage. So the staff could actually choose their preference, creating a win-win scenario because employees who valued predictability got guaranteed schedules, and those who valued higher pay had opportunities for the premium shifts. And third, carefully phase implementation based on financial impact. So start with solutions that have the highest impact to cost ratio and then reinvest the benefits from reduced turnover and improved productivity into the additional improvements and benefits. So a manufacturing company began with low-cost, high-impact changes like creating transparent career paths and implementing peer recognition programs. And as these changes reduced turnover and improved productivity, they reinvested a portion of these savings into more substantial benefits like skills-based pay increases and educational assistance. And this phased approach allowed them to become an employer of choice while actually improving their overall financial performance. So the most important point is that becoming an employer of choice doesn't necessarily mean having the highest costs. It means understanding what truly matters to your ideal employees and designing an experience that delivers exceptional value in those specific areas, even if you make trade-offs in other areas.
So to wrap up this segment, what are 2 key action items that you would recommend business owners implement right away?
Well, the first action item is to schedule those stay interviews that I talked about with at least 5 of your best performers in the next couple of weeks. Prepare specific questions about what they value most about working for your company, what frustrates them, and what would make their experience better. And the key is to listen without defensiveness. We business owners have a tendency to be defensive in these conversations, and look for patterns across different conversations. These insights will form the foundation for your employee problem solution identification. And then the second action item is to conduct a competitor analysis with an employment perspective. So review at least 10 online reviews of your top competitors on platforms like Glassdoor and Indeed, and note what employees consistently praise or criticize about these companies. And then assess your own company against these findings. Where do you potentially have advantages? Where you're vulnerable? And this analysis will help you identify opportunities for meaningful differentiation in the talent workplace. And in our next segment, we're going to explore that second component of our framework, employment value proposition development. We're going to show you how to articulate your unique advantages in a way that resonates powerfully with your ideal employees. So before I continue this discussion, we're going to take a 90-second break.
Hey there, business owners. Let me ask you something. Are you tired of blending in with your competitors? Frustrated with slow growth and slim margins? Well, I've got news for you. Everything you've ever learned about growing your business is wrong. But don't worry. I'm here to let you in on a secret weapon, your position of market dominance. It's what sets you apart, makes you irreplaceable, and has customers lining up at your door. My name is Michael Barbarita from Next Step CFO. I know what you're thinking. Sounds great, Michael, but how do I find my position of market dominance? Well, that's exactly why we've created our game-changing implementation program called Next Step to Market Dominance. In just 90 days, we'll guide you step by step to a position of market dominance by uncovering your unique strengths that competitors can't touch, by crafting a message that resonates deeply with your ideal customer, by building a strategy that turns you into the go-to expert in your field. Now, this isn't theory. These are battle-tested strategies that have helped businesses like yours double, triple, and quadruple their revenue. Don't let another quarter go by struggling to stand out. It's time to dominate your market, period. Go to nextstepcfo.net/contact, fill out the form, and in the message section, put the word dominate. Or call us at 781-326-3822. That's nextstepcfo.net/contact, or call us at 781-326-3822.
Welcome back to Powerful Business Strategies. And remember, you can catch any of our episodes at powerfulbusinessstrategies.com. So before the break, we discussed employee problem solution identification, how to uncover and address the specific frustrations your ideal employees face in your industry. Now, let's explore that second component of our employer of choice framework, employment value proposition development. This is about creating and articulating a compelling statement that clearly communicates how working for your company solves employee problems and delivers unique benefits they can't find anywhere else. Now, your employment value proposition, or EVP, is essentially your promise to employees. It answers the fundamental question: why should a talented person choose to work for your company rather than any option available to them? So a powerful EVP has 5 key characteristics. And we're going to give you a little later on, after I go over these characteristics, we're going to give you a little template and an example.
Nice.
So first, the first key characteristic is authentic. It must be based on real strengths and benefits your company can consistently deliver. Exaggerated claims quickly lead to disappointment and high turnover, and you'll be in last place very quickly. Second, it's distinctive. It clearly differentiates your company from typical employers in your industry by addressing specific problems or frustrations. Third, it's specific. Rather than generic claims about being a great place to work, it identifies concrete benefits and experiences employees will receive. Fourth, it's relevant. It focuses on what matters most to your ideal employees, not what you think should matter to them. And fifth, it's compelling. It creates an emotional connection by addressing deep motivations, not just rational considerations. So let me walk you through a process for developing your EVP that ensures you hit all 5 of these characteristics. So step 1 is to consolidate your research findings from the problem solution identification work we discussed in this first segment. Then review the patterns you discovered in stay interviews, exit data, industry research, and competitor analysis. What problems have you identified? What solutions have you developed or could you develop? Step 2 is to identify your authentic employment strengths. These are aspects of your employment experience that, number 1, you currently deliver consistently. Are you valued by what you're valued by employees, or what your employees value currently are relatively unique to your industry. They could be those experiences or experiences that you can sustain over time. And be honest here. It's better to have a few genuine strengths than a long list of aspirational claims that you can't deliver on. Step 3 is to craft your EVP statement. This is a concise articulation of your employment promise that typically follows a specific structure. It starts by acknowledging the problem or frustration that employees face in your industry, then presents your company as the solution to the problem through specific benefits or experiences. And this is the exact format of your position of market dominance for attracting customers. Now, I'm going to attempt as best I can to describe a template that you can use, and then I'll follow it up with an example to help you provide more clarity. So while most type of companies, so you start out with while most, and then you insert the type of company that you are in your industry. Expect, and then you insert the pain point and the frustration at whatever your company name is. We believe the alternative philosophy is what you insert. And that's why and you insert a specific solution, benefit 1, a specific solution, benefit 2, and a specific solution, benefit 3. Now, let me share an example of that template. So this is a real example from a company in the healthcare industry. Their EVP reads as follows. While most healthcare facilities expect clinicians to sacrifice work-life balance and professional autonomy, at ABC Healthcare, we believe exceptional patient care begins with exceptional provider well-being. That's why we guarantee predictable schedules announced 3 months in advance, limit administrative tasks to 20% of your work time, and provide every clinician with a dedicated professional development fund for continuing education of your choice. Now notice how this statement acknowledges common industry frustrations, presents an alternative philosophy, and then backs it up with specific, tangible benefits that address those frustrations.
Michael, that's a powerful example. And I do have a question related to this. So once a company has developed their EVP, how did they effectively communicate that to prospective employees? And part of that too is it seems like this would require a different approach than traditional job postings.
Yes, absolutely. Effectively communicating this EVP requires a fundamentally different approach to recruitment marketing because, most job postings focus on what the company wants from candidates, specific qualifications, experiences, responsibilities, these line listings of things they need to do and need to have, need to qualify. An EVP-centered approach just flips that narrative. This is to focus on what the company offers candidates. And that's the key difference. That's the key differential. And here are 5 strategies for effectively communicating your EVP to prospective employees. First, change your job posting into job postings into opportunity announcements. Traditional job postings read like demands For example, you must have this, or you will do that. And instead, structure your postings to lead with your EVP and the unique employee experience that you're going to be offering. And then connect specific job responsibilities to meaningful outcomes and growth opportunities, not just tasks that the employee needs to perform. For example, a company in the professional services industry changed their job postings from standard lists of requirements to opportunity-focused messages that began with, "Are you tired of firms that promise work-life balance but expect 70-hour weeks during busy seasons?" At Johnson Partners, we're reinventing the traditional accounting model to ensure that you can thrive both professionally and personally. And this approach immediately speaks to the common frustration and positions the company has as a solution, attracting candidates who have experienced those specific pain points. And second, leverage employee testimonials that validate your EVP. This is real powerful. Prospective employees are naturally skeptical of company claims, and authentic stories about current employees who have experienced the benefits that you promise carry a lot more weight than corporate statements. So collect specific stories that illustrate your EVP in action, not just generic endorsements. For example, rather than "this is a great place to work," seek testimonials like, "After working at 3 other firms where flexible scheduling was just a recruiting phase, I was amazed when my manager here actually helped me design a schedule around my family commitments. 2 years later, they've honored that promise consistently." And then third, showcase your EVP prominently in recruitment materials and your website's career page, and don't bury your employment advantages deep in your website or mention them only in job interviews. Make your EVP the centerpiece of your recruitment marketing, and create dedicated web content that expands on each element of your EVP with specific examples, employee stories, and tangible evidence. And use visuals and video to bring these elements to life authentically. And fourth, train everyone involved in the hiring process to articulate your EVP consistently, from recruiters to hiring managers to potential teammates. And everyone a candidate encounters, everyone in the candidate encounters should be able to clearly explain what makes your company unique as an employer. And this consistency reinforces your message and demonstrates that your EVP is not just a marketing slogan, but a deeply embedded part of your company culture. That is critical. Fifth, activate your current employees as EVP ambassadors. Your existing team members can be the most powerful recruitment channel if they generally believe in your employment experience. So create structured programs that make it easy for employees to share authentic content about their work experience on social media and in professional networks. And a quick example of this is a technology company created an employee experience content series where team members shared specific stories about how the company supported their growth and their work-life balance and their unique needs. And these authentic posts shared on LinkedIn and other platforms generated more qualified applicants than their paid recruitment advertising.
Remarkable. So to wrap up this segment, what are 2 key action items that you'd recommend for business owners?
Well, the first action item, Chuki, is to draft your initial EVP statement using the template that I provided in the example that I provided earlier. Start by writing down the most common frustrations that your research has uncovered about employers in your industry. Then articulate how your company offers a fundamentally different approach with at least 3 specific benefits or experiences that address their frustrations. And share this draft with trusted employees for feedback on its authenticity and appeal. And the second action item is to audit your current job. Auditing your current job postings that you actually been marketing with and recruitment materials against your new EVP. And how well do they communicate your unique advantages? Revise at least one job posting to lead with your EVP and restructure the content to focus on the opportunity you're offering rather than just the requirements that you have for that particular position. And test this revised approach against your traditional posting and measure the difference in both quantity and quality of applicants. And in our next segment, we'll explore the third component of our framework, which is attraction and retention systems, and show you how to implement specific processes to find ideal candidates, efficiently convert them to employees, and keep them engaged for the long term. So before we continue this discussion, we're going to take a 90-second break.
Hey there, business owners. Let me ask you something. Are you tired of blending in with your competitors? Frustrated with slow growth and slim margins? Well, I've got news for you. Everything you've ever learned about growing your business is wrong. But don't worry. I'm here to let you in on a secret weapon, your position of market dominance. It's what sets you apart, makes you irreplaceable, and has customers lining up at your door. My name is Michael Barbarita from Next Step CFO. I know what you're thinking. Sounds great, Michael, but how do I find my position of market dominance? Well, that's exactly why we've created our game-changing implementation program called Next Step to Market Dominance. In just 90 days, we'll guide you step by step to a position of market dominance by uncovering your unique strengths that competitors can't touch, by crafting a message that resonates deeply with your ideal customer, by building a strategy that turns you into the go-to expert in your field. Now, this isn't theory. These are battle-tested strategies that have helped businesses like yours double, triple, and quadruple their revenue. Don't let another quarter go by struggling to stand out. It's time to dominate your market, period. Go to nextstepcfo.net/contact, fill out the form, and in the message section, put the word dominate. Or call us at 781-326-3822. That's nextstepcfo.net/contact, or call us at 781-326-3822.
Welcome back to Powerful Business Strategies. So far, we've covered employee problem solution identification and employee value proposition development. Now, let's explore that third component of our employer of choice framework called attraction and retention systems. And this is where we implement specific processes to attract ideal candidates, officially convert them to employees, and keep them engaged for the long term. Having a great EVP isn't enough if your recruitment and management systems don't effectively connect it with the right people and consistently deliver on its promises. So let's start with attraction systems. So how do we find and appeal to your ideal employees? Well, there are 5 key strategies that I recommend. First, develop detailed ideal employee profiles. Just as marketers create customer avatars, you should create detailed profiles of your ideal employees for different roles. And these profiles should go beyond skills and experience to include values, motivations, career aspirations, and cultural fit indicators. For example, a software development company might identify that their most successful developers value autonomy, continuous learning, and work flexibility more than prestige or maximum compensation. And this insight would shape everything from where they recruit to how they structure interviews. Second, implement target sourcing strategies. Rather than using generic job boards and hoping that the right people apply, proactively seek out candidates who match your ideal profiles. And this might involve industry-specific forums and communities, professional associations and events. It might involve targeted social media groups, educational institutions with relevant programs. And it also might involve companies with similar cultures but different industries. So, for example, a manufacturing company struggling to find production supervisors started recruiting from the military, which provides extensive leadership training and instills the discipline and attention to detail that they value. And this targeted approach yields far better results than generic job postings. Third, create a referral system that leverages your EVP. So employee referrals consistently produce the highest quality hires with the best retention rate. So design a referral program that encourages current employees to identify candidates who would particularly value your EVP. And rather than just offering a generic referral bonus, create materials that would help employees explain your unique advantages to potential referrals. For example, so a healthcare company created conversation cards that highlighted their 3 key EVP elements with specific examples. And employees use these cards when talking to potential referrals, resulting in a 68% increase in qualified referral candidates. Fourth, design a candidate experience that showcases your EVP. So every touch point in the recruitment process should demonstrate your employment value proposition in action. If your EVP promises exceptional respect for work-life balance, don't schedule interviews outside business hours or expect immediate responses to communications. So a client in the professional services industry redesigned their interview process to demonstrate their commitment to professional growth, and they replaced traditional grilling interviews with collaborative problem-solving sessions that showcased how the firm approached professional development. And this change not only improved candidate experience, but it also provided better assessment of capabilities. And fifth, you leverage content marketing to attract passive candidates. So most high-value employees aren't actively job searching. Create content that addresses the professional challenges and interests of your ideal candidates, positioning your company as a thought leader and subtly communicating your EVP. For example, a marketing agency created a series of agency life reimagined articles and videos showcasing how they had eliminated common industry pain points like unpredictable hours and last-minute fire drills. Now, this content attracted interested prospects who were frustrated with traditional agency environments but weren't actively job hunting. So, Chuki, there's a question from a listener to wrap up this segment.
Yeah, so my understanding was that we would power through, but yeah, let's get to that. So to wrap up this segment, I mean, what are 2 of the most important action items that you would recommend for business owners?
Well, the first one is to audit your current onboarding process through the lens of your EVP. So you list each element of your EVP and evaluate how well your onboarding experience demonstrates and reinforces these elements. For example, if your EVP promises exceptional professional development, does your onboarding include a structured career planning session? If it promises work-life balance, are new employees given reasonable workloads and clear boundaries? Identify at least 3 specific improvements you can make to align your onboarding more closely with your EVP promises. And the second action item is to implement quarterly stay interviews with key employees. And these structured conversations should focus on understanding what they value most about working for your company, what frustrations they're experiencing, and what would make their experience even better. And use these insights to continuously refine your retention strategies and address issues before they lead to turnover. And document patterns across multiple interviews to identify systemic opportunities for improvement. So as we wrap up today's episode on becoming the employer of choice in your industry, let's summarize the key elements of our framework and how they work together to transform your ability to attract and retain top talent. Now, we began with the employee problem solution identification, deeply understanding the specific problems and frustrations that your ideal employees face with typical employers in your industry and developing innovative solutions to these problems. Now, we discussed research methods like stay interviews, exit data analysis, industry research, and competitor reviews to uncover these insights. Next, we explored employment value proposition development, creating and articulating a compelling statement that clearly communicates how your company solves employee problems and delivers unique benefits that they can't find elsewhere. We provided a template for your crafting your EVP statement and strategies for effectively communicating it to prospective employees. And finally, we covered attraction and retention systems, implementing specific processes to find the ideal candidates, efficiently convert them to employees, and keep them engaged for the long term. And we discussed targeting sourcing we discussed targeted sourcing, referral programs, candidate experiences, onboarding, growth paths, and systematic listening mechanisms. So the power of this framework comes from implementing all three components together and understanding employee problems without developing solutions won't improve your position. Having a great EVP without effective attraction and retention systems won't translate to results. The businesses that truly become employers of choice are those that excel in all three areas. Remember that becoming an employer of choice isn't about copying what large companies do or offering the highest compensation. It's about deeply understanding what matters most to your ideal employees and creating an experience that delivers exceptional value in those specific areas. And this approach allows even small businesses to compete effectively for talent against much of the larger organizations. And so to get a copy of the book, Powerful Business Strategy, simply go to our website, www.nextstepcfo.net. It's totally complimentary. And until next Monday at noon Eastern Time, for Chuki Obiyo, my name is Michael Barbarita. And remember, don't keep doing what your competition is doing.
You have been listening to Powerful Business Strategies, finding out that everything you ever learned about growing your business is wrong. Tune in next week and every week at noon Eastern Time on W4CY Radio with your host, Michael Barbarita of Next Step CFO and moderator Chuki Obiyo.